All right, welcome back. This is Kikao with Liz Mutuku, Hibak Said, and myself, Victor Muyakane. Before we went for a breather, we were getting the views from our fellow Kenyans who are on the floor right now. We were able to get a couple of questions from a few of the members. Can we get some responses before we get some more comments, questions? Mr. Rocha, I know you have something you're cooking up. Let's just go around the room, around the table. Mr. Champati, let's start with you. What did you make of some of the comments, and are you able to give an answer to, especially the member that had some questions about the zero rating and all that? Please.
Right. Thank you for that. Let me just address you. But many of you spoke, and I didn't get the person who mentioned that point.
The member
David.
from...
Thank you.
Yeah.
So...
You said Kathiani? Yes,
Kathiani.
Kathiani.
So, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think there's a gap that has been created there on the transition from zero rated to now VAT exempt. And what that does, and I will just read to you what I have gathered, is the retaining that zero rating for essential inputs supports directly. These are key value chains that we're talking about. Key value chains that are being affected. We're talking of food security. That is a huge challenge. So when you shift from the zero rated to the VAT exempt, we look at the critical value chain of animal feeds. Now, businesses won't be able to recover from those VAT inputs. And of course, it leads to higher consumer prices, as you correctly articulated. There's a whole spillover. And now, when there's a whole spillover, everything else goes up. So I think there needs to be an addressing of that point, where we retain what was there, the zero rating, as opposed to now going to VAT exempt. Yeah.
All right. Mr. Kithinji? Yeah.
Well, as with regards to that, the zero rated and the exempt, looking at the items which were actually being zero rated, quite a number of them were relating to aircrafts and some medication and probably some food supplements. The question would be, and that's the real question we need to ask ourselves, does it really affect the common man when you're getting food supplements in comparison to going to the farm? However, when you're discussing about agricultural inputs, fertilizer and the likes, when they start moving them from zero rated to exempt or exempt to VATable, it automatically translates to higher costs. Now, these costs will be higher, and you can imagine, first and foremost, we are not able to claim back the VAT from fuel. We are not able to claim back now VAT on the inputs. Ultimately, the cost of living will go high. The little money that we have, the disposable income available at the grassroots will be wiped out. So I really would call on the government, yes, to review. Okay? I know the argument is that a lot of these benefits do not get to the final consumers, because especially with regards to VAT. But are there mechanisms? And I believe there are. We have already figured out how to ensure everyone raises an invoice for their purchases and can be able to account for the whole chain. As in, whatever you report under your VAT will definitely have to tie up with what is in your income tax. We can be able to sort this out. And I think this requires a little bit more with regards to applying and paying attention to this. Now, with regards to public participation, my view is that we should not wait. And we should not wait to get the forum. You'll never get it. When you wait, time will pass, laws will be passed, and you will lose out. So you're better off making your voice heard. It could be in Nairobi, it could be back up country. Please make sure that you take those opportunities. They may not take into account everything. And you see, okay, one thing I learned about when I was doing my public finance class at UN is that the government collects taxes from everyone, but that responsibility as to how to allocate the tax and all that is not now a public affair. It's more government now towards the citizen. okay? And the order of priority is really out of our control. Beautiful thing we have the public participation. One point or another, you can get one of your thoughts through, but that doesn't mean you give up. Please keep doing it. I agree with Wycliffe that the government needs to be transparent. We are in a situation where we are conflicted because members of parliament are sitting on both ends. They're eating from taxpayers' funds in terms of salaries, and they're still going back to the executive to get their pockets lined. So in the process, they're conflicted. They cannot be able to do their job of oversight fully. So probably the only other bodies we have would be the auditor, but when you're, as Francis would say, or would tell us, when you're carrying out an audit, it's more of a postmortem. Transactions have already happened. If it's money, it's moved. So it's now a question of enforcing the recommendations which are given by the auditors. And that should be taken in and implemented fully. The other thing was with regards to a question asked by Michael and about investor confidence and the issue on tax appeals. But with regards to investor confidence, I think this comes back to the policy. I know we have the national tax policy, which is, I think this is the first proposed bill that is trying to address it. So we've seen very little changes in terms of taxes, okay, as the first thing, okay? So probably that gives us room then to continue pushing so that we can be able to get more and more out of it, okay? So that, if you'd allow me, I allowed the CS on that for that effort, but we need to be able to push so that we can be able to get a lot more stability, a lot more equity, and especially somebody who mentioned about tax bands. I think 24,000 shillings as the lower tax band is really low. 10%, that should be moved up probably to 50, and then we can now have the other tax bands moving from that point, okay? So that then the benefit is actually felt by the common mwananchi. Thank you.
FCPA.
Thank you very much.
As you're answering also those questions, there is someone here who is really asking for you and everyone else in the panel to explain how the payee will be calculated. It's something we would like also to hear from you as you answer other questions.
Thank you very much. Liz, I am to the prescription made by Laban, my teacher, on how to progress in terms of development. And he mentioned agriculture particularly. And what agriculture does is it contributes 26% to the GDP of this country. So you are strategic on that. But I just want to mention a few things that the government has done in this respect. And you mentioned about the use of technology to ensure that our farmers are guided adequately and appropriately, one of which is weather alerts. I happen to understand a little bit of agricultural sector as a farmer and a person of interest in the area of agriculture. And there is a platform called Kenya Agricultural Observatory Platform where you can be able to get your weather alerts zeroed into your ward. And this is based on a satellite technology. It's a government platform, and you can be able to get those alerts. They are there, they are available, including the soil surveys, which have been conducted. So that is information that's available. The other aspect, just to add on, is I agree with you in respect of providing enablers in relation to rural electrification, because that is enabling industry to thrive. And you mentioned about the school feeding program, which this Nairobi City County is conducting in other counties. But on the flip side also, there is also the aspect of ability to support that kind of program so that we don't lose sight of what are the developmental aspects that we need to take care of to ensure that the country is growing the economy. Of course, I support feeding program, but it may not be sustainable with due respect to all our learners. The other aspect that was raised by Francis Njuguna is why are we paying? I mean, we pay through M-Pesa and all that kind of thing. Excise duty here, VAT and all that. But at the end of the day, we pay in respect to what is it that when it comes to income tax, so it will be all accumulated. It will be paid to Safaricom as well from their profits. There was also more of comment on public participation by Hanif, and of course it makes a lot of sense to segment the population in terms of public participation and expand. And then, of course, again, allocate maybe more time so that we have adequate time for all players to ensure that they give the governor from Kadiani. I don't want to belabor on zero rating versus exempt. I think it has been ably addressed by my colleagues here. Elton Butiji from Kakamega, we talked about housing. I think housing is dignity. We may have houses, but if we put question to what are the kind of houses we are talking about, we need to give a bit of dignity to Kenyans. So I don't refuse that there are no people living on the streets in Kakamega, but we are saying let us have also dignified habitat for our people. Then on VAT, on agricultural produce, that is not factual. As an established accountant, that's not true. It is on value added. What have you added on a produce you have just produced from the farm? So there is no value added, so there is no VAT on that. So that is a position. Then the other aspects that has been mentioned is Gwazi. Is it the standing member of parliament for Gwazi or something?
Member for Gwazi, future member.
Future. And then I don't want to unpack it the future because it depends. Let me say, education is the biggest consumer of our resources in terms of funding. And if you look at the last few years, there's been heavy investment in terms of education sector, developing infrastructure for students at grade 8, developing now infrastructure for students transiting to grade 10, which will be in high school now, and all that kind of hiring the large number of teachers, which has never happened. So there is heavy actually investment in terms of education. Then there is Michael. You mentioned about why budget for what we don't have. Why budget for what we don't have? I think for development to occur, even the biggest economy of this country is indebted heavily. The biggest economy of this world, not of this country, the biggest economy of this world is heavily indebted as well. So it depends on how you use what you get from other development partners. So we many a times don't develop a balanced budget. There is always a gap, but strategically seek support from development partners and other players to ensure that we are able to support our budget. So I think those were some of the comments on zero rating. It has well been articulated that that transfer may not be transitioning to the consumers.
FCPA, could you please touch on payee, because there is the aspect of, automatic relief that's going to come, and also a lot of our viewers and even some individuals within the crowd have said that they want more clarity on payee. How exactly is it going to be conducted? We know during Labor Day that, the COTU SecGen did say that maybe it should be, some of the deductions should be done on the gross, not the gross, but the basic pay instead of the gross pay. What are some of the changes we are anticipating?
Okay, on pay, just one package for purposes of understanding is that they are the graduated bands, where you have the lowest at 10%, you go to 25, you go to 30, 32 and a half, and ultimately 35 in anything in excess of 500,000. So when it comes to social health insurance fund, it's on the gross package at 2.75. Then when it comes to housing, affordable housing levy, it is also on the gross at 1.5%. So the proposal is that some of these deductions be on the basic salary, not necessarily on the gross amount. And I think that is what was mentioned at Labor Day, that it makes a whole difference to apply the percentages on the basic pay and not the gross, as well as having these ones as allowable deductions before you charge tax, which was adjusted in the Act of 2024, which came into effect on 27th of December. So there was a bit of release of disposable income to salaried persons based on that application, because it's a technical application, but at the end of the day, the tax will reduce and the disposable income increased by a marginal amount. So that the proposal as well is to, and as it was mentioned here, that the banding is too broad from 33,000 all the way to 500 and 32.5, that we can have closer bands. And then, of course, it will release a bit of income to the lower rates for all the salaried persons. So that proposal makes a lot of sense. And anything in excess, tax should have equity, and that is a proposal. And I think that is why that proposal is coming through. It's premised on let's have equity. If you look at it from the lower earner, they are affected more than the person who will still remain at 35% to infinity. That is what it means.
All right, maybe we'd throw it back, Michael.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Michael Wandera. I'm a medical radiography student, JKUAT, and the current chief coordinator, Jomo Kenyatta University Radiography Student Association. So I waited for this day. In fact, I didn't even sleep, I waited for this day. Yeah, first and foremost, let us make it clear, no one forced any leader to be a leader. So they just need to be fully responsible for what we are saying. According to Constitution, Article 201, in conjunction with 210, about imposing tax, they highly call for accountability and openness. So I want to make it clear what we are doing here. It is a very legal thing. So I would love to venture somehow in healthcare system, since it has been a topic of discussion in the past year. I hope we know, right? So this confusion, while I was reading the bill, I noticed the reason why they are increasing the overall amount is that they want to increase in delivering services to people. So by increasing delivering services to people, but one of the most fundamental area, as far as we are concerned, it is healthcare system. So I have a question regarding government. So how can officials or people in charge being in a position to be able to import various heavy machines like G-Wagons, people living very luxurious life, but they can't afford, sincerely speaking, a very simple MRI, a CT scan, an X-ray machine in various hospitals. This is one of the fundamental equipment used in something called imaging. So doctors here, they can confirm with us, they cannot do anything called treating patient without being sure of what they are treating of. So these all things, they are done in something called radiology. So my main emphasis here is that we are living a high class, but our services, they are very low class. So I have a question. Why this? We need to improve when concerning something called concerning healthcare. Another question is concerning county government. I hope you know these all things that are happening, these all gimmicks, these all games, they have hidden also these people, the cartels in county governments. We have two governments, the national government and the county government, right? So we also need as youths to venture deeply into the county government. We need to be accountable for what they are doing. So we need to be able to ensure also they are delivering maximum services that we need. We need to ensure people working, I hope you know, there's a lot of things under county governments. So you have, for the past few years, as we can see, the county government has been hidden in these old scandals. So we also need to be there to ensure county governments are very accountable. There's a lot of money being dropped in the county government. They complain governors are not receiving money on the right time. You have had that information. So we also need this money that they have received now. What are they doing with it? Some healthcare systems, I think all healthcare systems has been substantiated to county government, that the people who take hold of it, you understand, that the people who need to oversee over this healthcare system. So we need to be in a level whereby when a hospital, maybe a level 4, a level 5 hospital, a level 6 hospital, should be very well equipped to be able to deliver services to the people. Thank you very much.
Right. Of course, the cabinet dispatch also spoke about healthcare a little bit. There are some provisions that are going to be made in 2 counties, Kericho, I believe, and one other county within Western Region. We're going to touch on that. But I need to hear from the lady. What do you have to say? Do you have a question, a comment? What additions do you have to give? Introduce yourself first.
Thank you. My name is Mutai. I'm a resident at Bomet County, and I do have 2 questions. And allow me to just collect my debt and say that I'll be using his time too.
All right.
My question will be directed to FCPL Agat. Yeah, and can you paint a clear picture on the health financial status of the country? And just to reiterate, but rather give it a context, what my friend said here about the health system. I actually read in the bill, I'm not really sure whether I understood, but there's actually a move to exempt taxes on raw materials for pharmaceutical industries or other products. And there's also a move to tax new clinical equipments or facilities for health institutions. And I do not really expect you to speak on behalf of the government, and especially to speak about the bottom-up economic transformation policy, but I do believe that health was one of them. Don't you think that this rather is very contradictory to what they spoke when they were trying to get our votes? Right. And also, I do have a question for Joshua. This one, just allow me to say that it might not really be part of the debate, but how much does the mining sector in its entirety generate as revenue? Because as a young girl studying my social studies, I did believe that this country was endowed with natural resources, and we could actually use that to facilitate our own selves. So how much are you generating, and how much is the government trying to give you? Yeah.
Okay, the mining sector actually adds, I think, 1% to the gross domestic product, which is very low because it's supposed to be 10%. But he knows best. He'll give us more answers. I will give just one more question before we go back to our panel. Introduce yourself, then ask.
So thank you for the opportunity. My good names are Amboka Brian, and I want to give my few insights about the Finance Bill 2025. So just before that, I want to just paint a picture of the reason why we are here. We're talking about the Finance Bill 2025.
Amboka, the mic. Yes, please.
For the last 2 years, for the last 5 years, I think the Finance Bill discussion was nowhere in the trajectory of this country. For the first time, we're having discussions about the Finance Bill 2025. Why? The question is why. This is because of the situations or the what happened last year, a time like this last year. So this year, we have the Finance Bill 2025. In my opinion, I want to categorically state that this Finance Bill 2025 is about to paint a good picture to the government, because the first setback this government faced when they went into power was about the Finance Bill demonstrations in last year, 2024. So quickly, I want to talk about now what is in the Finance Bill 2025. So I just want to give a few questions to the panelists who are here. One, I was in Uganda 2 weeks ago, and I want to believe and also be proud of our country, Kenya. Our country is more developed than our neighbors here in Uganda. Why? Because one, we have what we call the beaches. We have tourists coming here. Summertime is coming along, and I'm very sure with youth here like to enjoy to the coastline. But now in Finance Bill 2025, there's something they have increased the VAT on hospitality and tourism. So what is it that the country is trying to increase the VAT on hospitality and tourism, and the same way we as a country are depending on hospitality and tourism to raise revenue. Are we? Is the government saying that we are discouraging tourists and people from abroad to come and visit our country? For enjoyment. And also to
so they're discouraging enjoyment, according to you?
Summertimes.
They are chasing away tourists.
Should there be a minister for enjoyment? Please proceed, Mr. Amboka.
So another thing, it's already been talked about, is about medicinal products have been exempted from the VAT. So when on 29th of last month, when the cabinet, which is chaired by our president, signed the Finance Bill 2025. Before now, on 30th, where it was taken to the Parliament, where the legislatures have to debate on it. But I've seen some few processes before the financial bill is asserted into law that a committee on Treasury, which is, I believe, chaired by Molo MP, that is Kimani.
The Finance
Committee
yes.
is chaired by Kimani Kuria, has to go clause by clause in each of the clauses of the finance bill. So if the committee, which is, I'm not sure the number of members of parliament who sit in a committee, they have to go to all the clauses in all the clauses in the finance bill and consider if they have to be asserted into law or not. So this is just a challenge to them. As they go through all the clauses in the Finance Bill 2025, be true to themselves and be true to Kenyans and try and remove all the clauses that may not be comfortable to Kenyans so that we cannot witness what happened last year, a time like this where it gave a real setback to this government, which I believed on when it was being voted in because of what the analogy, which was Mama Mboga and the low-grade people, and especially the young people who are really believing on this government. But right now, the young people are the people opposition. They're the main people opposing this government.
All right.
Yeah, so the last question I want to ask in any of the panelists, or maybe the CPA who is representing the government.
He's not representing the government. He's just a fellow CPA.
Okay. But it seems like, so when the president goes to America, China, and I think 2 weeks ago he was in China, he receives a lot of, let me say, grants or donations, or is it loans? I don't know. What does this mean to now the budget? Is it budgeted for, or when these grants are given from the countries from outside, where does this money go? Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to FCPA. You've been mentioned. He does not work for the government, but please
Yes, let me start from there. And I sit here to represent facts as a professional. So if that is a representation of government, then it remains as facts. Yes. So let me pick from Michael, and I feel you when you talk about the health sector because it affects all of us. And you reckon very well that it is a default function. However, a few roles are left to the ministry. Of course, it should be policy. So we can only say that we hope for the best in terms of how it can be tweaked so that we have accountability and much of investment in governance in county so that our health sector can perform. It is for the benefit of all of us. Then, Mutai? I want to appreciate the level of articulation of issues by the audience here. On the finance health, I just want to mention a few things, and it will be the judge. One is the ability to be able to meet our obligations when they fall due. That's about public debt that we are able to pay. That one alone gives you some hope that there is tomorrow. The other aspect is the level of inflation that we are facing today. And because there was heavy investment in agriculture, that's the food basket, the consumer price index was able to tweak around the inflation that was reading in excess of 12, 13% to something 3.6% as we sit today. So that is in itself an achievement. And those are the other aspect that I wanted to mention is the fiscal deficit, which is about the budget gap. The fiscal deficit has reduced as low as 4%. So meaning we can be able to operate within our own revenues without really resorting to external debt. So that means something. Then to Brian, and this is where you talked about VAT on hospitality. It's actually taking away what, So I think there'll be a lot of looking into what before this is passed, and those are some of the areas because we want to really build on the positive things that we already seen. Hope I've been able to cover.
You've covered a majority of them, actually. Yes. You have. Yes. Let's go to Evans.
Well, maybe just to reiterate, I think the government is losing trust with Kenyans. Mm-hmm. When they have given incentives on some really basic items like medical supplies, and now are clawing back, does it mean that Kenyans have imported these items on the guise of starting a hospital and sold? You know, it sets our mind thinking, is it that we are not trustworthy enough? Well, so that's a discussion we need to pick. But of course, that will result in constraining development in that front, constraining availability of medical services at the grassroots. Because when you're building a 50-capacity hospital somewhere in Bomet or wherever, you're really serving the constituents in that area. So this needs to be revisited. I think they're better off coming off with better or more strict rules around this, but leaving it as being zero-rated and still leaving it also being import duty exempt. With regards to taxing the tourist sector, this ideally, again, was in relation to the equipment which is brought. And I don't know what the message is. Maybe we have got enough hotels, we have got enough cars, or, again, we're not trustworthy enough. So in as much as we read this act, looking at the government speaking to us, we also need to look at ourselves, probably, and figure out, is it something we are doing wrong? And how can we rectify? What proposals can we give? I know the argument is like for the vehicles need to be strictly used in the tourist sector. So are these vehicles being used elsewhere? So those are the questions that we need to answer. So at the end of the day, my call would be, pull this back, let's sit, let's discuss, let's find solutions, as opposed to making or affecting this industry, which have been a great earners for our country. Now, with regards to accountability, and I think there's someone who mentioned about accountability and with regards to county government. I think it was Michael. I think what needs to happen is that we need to, and may sound very dicey, but we need to really support Senate. I know probably very soon they'll be coming around asking for an oversight fund, which will allow them to do research, to send people on the ground to gather information. Because again, they may not be able to get all that information. If we can be able to do that, from my view, we are better off taking away the NGCDF, pushing it to the county for governors to run, and then leave the oversight roles for members of parliament and Senate. And whatever will be given to Senate as oversight fund is purely for managing that. So I think that is very important. There was another question. What does the president, when the president goes out of the country, what engagements does he come up with? I think currently, and we've not had any concrete engagement in the recent past, especially from China, but I think it's more towards PPP. I think this was alluded to even when the CS was speaking. And so PPP would be where investors bring in their money and probably we provide the land, we provide, and so there's that engagement. So that is something we need to consider. Now, there was one question which was not answered around debt, because there was a question about what happens when you got all these pending bills. And again, the CS alluded that probably there are 3 ways to handle it. My take would be, I think we need to be serious about governance, serious about the activities we do at the constituency level. When you procure a service, follow through and pay. Okay? The beauty about the zero-based budget is that then it allows you to accrue. Okay? So if there was an activity which was not fully paid for, it will be carried for us. So in our books we'll have, but I think you're better off paying, and especially if the assignment was completed in due time and within the financial year. Just pay and at least allow Kenyans to enjoy the work they have worked so hard to deliver.
All right. Let's hear from you, Tiampati. There was a question specifically for the mining sector,
Yeah.
its contribution to the economy and all that. What do you have to say?
Right. Thank you, Mutai, for that question. You know, the mining industry is an interesting one. It disobeys the principle of reaping where you've sown. Because we have wealth, mineral wealth underneath our feet. And not just in one county or two counties, and not in the 29 counties that the ministry has gazetted, but all across the 47 counties. Mining is happening everywhere. Now, we talk of the sector's contribution. I'll correct Hibak a bit. That was as at December 2024. Now, our largest contributor, Base Titanium, has pulled out. Issues of license. Issues of licensing.
My goodness.
Base Titanium, of the 1%, was contributing 84 of that. So we've gone back to about 0.2 of our national GDP. Now there's the dream that President Kibaki had envisioned back when Vision 2030 was being established of the 10%. The question is how? And why have we not yet reached there? I mean, Vision 2030 came out in the year 2010 or before. Why have we not reached there? One, I'd say the formalization of the industry. As it stands, it's a risky industry to go into and requires patient capital. I would have liked to see regulations featured in this finance bill that touch on safeguarding and bringing out that potential of the mining sector. One, on value addition, because as it stands, we're exporting our raw materials, our minerals raw. There's very little to no value addition done on them. No incentives coming from government on that. Secondly...
question just on that. Should it be government that's pushing for incentives or providing... Should it be government's job to optimize value addition, or people such as yourselves, private sector investment?
Of course.
Compare, for example, with what Botswana did with the processing of diamonds.
Right, and that's a good point. So it's twofold. There's what private sector is doing, which is mainly backed by legislation and policy frameworks. If the policy climate is not friendly, or the tax regime is not friendly on value addition, then it doesn't make sense. For example, still till today, there's a $125 USD levy on iron ore as a raw material. So, what pattern? So what that means is, if the market price of iron ore internationally is 80 USD per ton, already the levy is 125 USD. So what value can you add to that? You're already at a loss if you want to ship out that iron ore. So we need to meet each other halfway. As private sector, we are doing what we can, you know? But if the regulatory framework is not friendly enough for us to export our minerals at a very added value, then there's no way value addition will take place. So that is number one, formalization. Secondly, I would say we did a geophysical airborne survey of our country, but that data is now privileged data, unfortunately. It is held in some offices high above. That data needs to be democratized so that investors can come and see what Kenya has. And I'll tell you for sure, if we have a strategy to open up this sector, we'll not only contribute the 10% Hibak was saying, we can even go up to 15 and 20% of our national GDP. We are sleeping on gold. We are sleeping on strategic minerals. We're sleeping on green transition minerals, things that are key in driving this climate transition that we talk about. So that is really, in a nutshell, how we are looking at the mining sector. There's a lot of hope.
Maybe if you could allow me to ask you a question.
Sure.
We've seen the government reducing the export levy on steel, rolled steel and all that, from 17.5 to around 5%. What does that have? Okay, what is the impact of that? Is it actually helping our economy, or is it pulling us back? From where I sit, I thought that would be a good source of revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, it is even cheaper to source the raw material, iron ore, from our neighboring country in Uganda than it is locally to do it, or to plug in that raw material into our production of iron ore locally. The introduction of that levy is at the far end. But you see, a product is completed by its various stages. You can't just look at a product at its fine end. What are the costs that have gone into it from the start? So while it may, at the very end, look like it is something that is beneficial, we need to look at it from the first at the value chain, the first point at the value chain, which still we're facing that challenge.
Okay. Interesting.
Sounds interesting. And
There was I thought I saw your question. Yeah.
This question at the tail end, it will just be on a light note, so.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
light
So we have because generally we have talked of all the question I wanted to ask. Fiscal discipline versus social impact. While the government aims to cap the fiscal deficit at 4.5% of the GDP and enhance revenue collection, the social implications of these measures cannot be ignored. So my question is, how then do you advise the government to mitigate against the negative social impacts of these fiscal policies? Why I'm asking this question is, the government is led by a person who is advised by 17 advisors. They are parallel, they are almost the same number to the CSS. So if he does not listen to the advisors and advises the advisors, how then do we move here?
All right.
A while back I was told that it is only a fool who is advised by 17, but I've not called anyone, so you can...
I know very well also there is the question of investor confidence in our country. And the word on the street has it that investors are leaving Kenya to other countries or neighboring countries. And the greatest question is what can be done to ensure that we have stability when it comes to our taxes. And this goes to FCPA and also and everyone else there. But before you answer me that, also I would like to hear what is there for us, especially MSMEs. I am a small business owner. What is there for me in this finance bill? And I know this is a hustler nation, they said so. Kutoka chini kupanda huku juu, Mama Mboga and every other person. They would like to understand what is in there for them in this finance bill, and also would like to hear from those two gentlemen there.
Ismael, you can come first.
Comrades power. Orisman once said that the man who hangs around a good
Please swap the mic.
Comrades power. Comrades rear. That's it. A wise man once said that the man who hangs around a beautiful girl for a long time without speaking to her will end up fetching water at her wedding. I've sat here for more than 2 hours and I was wondering, would have been doing a great injustice to the villagers in Zombo who have sat for 4 hours in the village just to see me speak for 1 hour. And my girlfriend, whom I told I'll be on TV, but I'm sure she has slept. So she's thinking I'm now with some daughters of Jezebel somewhere. So my friend Victor, kindly you'll help me salvage my marriage back at home. So I have one. So my name is Mazaro Chandegwa. I am the immediate president of the Premier University of Nairobi and also serving as the acting chair of Safari Ekulu movement that is accommodate some of these students here. So my question is this: when I read through the bill, one clause said that there will be a withdrawal of an exemption of taxes imposed on what's this housing. So my question was does it mean that when the government imports some of these materials to build these houses, do they still tax them, or what were they meaning in that? Because as my friends were saying, it is true that the language used in that content clause, it's very difficult that some of us can't even understand. Number two, that I was also to say that I really understand when my friends here lament and agitate, because when I hear Ungoya crying and lamenting, I understand, because most of us here students were living below the poverty index line of $2.5. They can even tell you it is very true. And most of them are sad, and they thought that when Mbadi joins government, they will get the 6K per month, the 6K shillings that had been promised by the Azimio government. But up to now, he has not yet disbursed the funds. So I really understand. And also, these are youths that have been promised that the only jobs that are there for them are only in Mjengo. Yet the politicians' sons and daughters cannot do these same jobs. These are youths that have been overtaxed for a long time and have lost hope in their government. And when they speak, I really understand you. And what you're saying is that we are not against taxation, because all these countries that have developed have grown because of using these taxes to now bring projects that have brought income on the common mwananchi. But when the youths are told, or when the country is told that about 70% of taxes that is collected goes to repay the debt which from 2013 up to now, some of which has been collected unknowingly or even unconstitutionally without involving the MPs and even the citizens. That's what brings all this distrust and this aggression between the public and the government. And now the public cannot even believe anything that the government says. And I really liked what able guy from mining said, that indeed there is misplaced priorities. And from where I'm sitting, I feel it's like as Kenyans, we are like that African cow that goes to graze alone in hardship, and then when it gets home, it is milked, but it only produces 1 liter. So the farmer thinks if I milk it more, maybe it will produce. But when we see when we look at these hybrid or grade cows, so let me use this thing that maybe now there are those that are abroad. They are fed well, good quality of feeds. They don't move around, and then they produce good milk. So if the government can invest more on us, we will have been happy as youths if maybe they said, instead of us investing money in this housing to provide jobs, let us increase the funding of the Youth Development Fund, so that youths can employ themselves. Because from where I stand, I'd be happy to start my own hotel with 200,000 shillings than work in Mjengo, because it is very tiresome. I hope you've tried to do the work of Mjengo. I've been there for 2 days. It's very tiresome. Carrying those rocks and cement. So as youths, we want to tell the government, we don't want the work of housing. We want to start our own jobs, because this job of housing, it is very difficult. And as I close, I hope I think I can answer one thing that he said, that indeed it is true that we really have a poor sector we have poor revenue collected from the mining. And we've seen as a country that we have so many conmen wash in disguise as gold brokers, most of who are our MPs whom we know by names. So I think it's high time that the government even brings a good rule or a fist and ensure that people who involve themselves in fraud of gold get arrested. And some of them are even speakers, and you know them. I'm sure you sit with them in your in offices. It is true. I know them because I've spoken to them so many times. So that also can be a measure to how we can increase the revenue from gold or from all minerals in our country.
All right. Let's hear from this other member from Kisii. Take the speaking mic.
Yeah, thank you. I think you also spoke my mind. My village elders, village mates, they are assembled in one Kinyozi back in Nyamira County, and they are watching. I greet you all in the name of Jesus. Amen. So my name is Omwansa. I'm the chair of all needy and suffering comrades in East and Central Africa. Most people say that I'm on the payroll of the government. I want to make that clear that I'm not. I'm only but a responsible citizen who obeys and respects the government of the day. Because during the election time, we told you the better option, but you told us no, that you are going for the hustler, you are going for the... Nilimiss chance ya kuongea kwa Kiswahili, so mtaniruhusu pia juu wazee wangu pale nyumbani wanaelewa sheng. So, mimi ningependa kuambia mavijana hivi. Tutalia, tutapiga kelele, but if we don't come out to do what is right, bado in the next 15 years bado tutalia. Look at this. In the parliament, we have MPs who mwenye amesema sijui they are gold, sijui what and what. Yeye ndio anajua, mimi sijui. Those MPs wameserve 4 terms. Nani anaweka huko?
Sisi.
Ni sisi. The problem starts with us and ends with us. So tukipiga kelele tukisema sijui nini must go. Where were you when we were voting? Mulipewa pesa kidogo. About public participation. Last week I've told you we had the NG and CDF public participation. Our youth kama usipowapea tokenism kakitu, they will not come. Watakuja hapo watasarau huyo mheshimiwa, wasipopewa kitu hata wanasahau Kenya walikuwa wanaongelea huko. You get? So our young people, I know you will hate me or you love me, I don't know, in equal measure. But what I can tell you is this. Let us really think at that ballot. Let us make wise and sane decisions. We are talking about the finance bill today. The finance bill for the government, this finance bill, our government is a listening government. Our president hajatuongezea taxes kama last time because alisikia. Sahi ana expand. We need like 20 to 35 billion zenye watu wana evade kulipa hizo tax. That's why anasema nataka kuweka macho kila pale, mitego, watu walipe tax. So what I'm saying is this. What our president, ukiangalia new funding model today at my work in town, there's a young lady was come amekuja kutoa pesa yake kwa bank. Hiyo pesa amekuja kutoa ni ya HELB 39,000. Kumuuliza na kwani unalipa, anasoma yuan first year analipa 650 something thousand, but the government juu kwa band 5 imemlipia yote, anabaki alipe 120 something. So hii 39 amepata ni same 1, same 2 pia 39, inabaki ni kidogo sana. Into that a government that listens, into that a government that supports you. Let me answer you about affordable housing. Let me answer you about my people. The Bible says that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. Huyu amesema affordable housing. Do you know? Let me tell you this. 2018 walikuja Mukuru watu wa ministry wakachukua data. Mimi nimezaliwa Mukuru South B for Ata. Then let me tell you, 2018 they took data of those people. You see, I listened to you when you were speaking, when you made a lot of unserious jokes. Now allow me just finish my point. Please, we're out of time. About the affordable housing. Wale watu wa Mukuru, sasa tuko na Mukuru affordable housing huko, si ndio? Hawa wali register 2018. Last month walikuja wakafanyia remuneration. Last week wamepewa kifunguo. Tuende na wewe kesho ama hata saa hii. Watu wako kwa hizo studios na studios were free. Haulipi hata shilingi. The only that you pay is 1 bedroom for 96,000 na ingine is 2 bedroom 127,000. So my brother, instead of being in TikTok, OnlyFans and all over, go to social media, make use of it, get information, get equipped and change your ways. You better change or perish.
All right. Just before we finish, the guy at the back, you haven't said anything.
Yes.
Are you okay? We just want to, this is a status check. Are you okay? Are you okay? Just yes or no. Are you okay? Sorry? You're not really okay. All right, thank you very much. We'll give you a chance next time. Ladies and gentlemen, asanteni sana for joining us tonight. It's been quite a while. I know they haven't answered the question, but I'm afraid we're out of time. We had, they say, make hay while the sun shines. Now the sun is setting and it's raining outside. I know you guys need to get home, but thank you. Thank you so much. On my right is the great Elizabeth Mutuku. Thank you so much. Natumai
nimefurahia mjadala wa siku ya leo na asanteni sana kuja. Na pia asanteni pia kuzungumza nasi kutoka kwa njia ambayo sisi tunaelewa, na naamini kwamba wananchi wameelewa zaidi kutoka hapa kwenye mtandao wa kijamii. Unaweza kuona jinsi ambavyo wamefafanuliwa. Tutazidi kuzungumzia haya na mengine mengi zaidi kuhusiana na mjadala huu na masuala ya mswada wa fedha na bajeti yenyewe. Hivyo basi zidi kufuatilia runinga hii ya TV47.
Naam. Na upande wangu kushoto ni dada Hibak Said. Hibak is back, please.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been such a great conversation, having our panelists and, of course, our audience, all the numbers that we've crunched, all the details that we've gone through. We'll probably talk about the budget as well, and I believe it will be even hotter than this. So keep it TV47, to be honest.
All right. Na ndugu zetu na dada zetu walio nyumbani, asanteni for choosing us to inform you this evening on what's happening across your world. Guys, this conversation is bigger than our time, clearly. So let's keep the conversation going on social media. The chat on YouTube, the people who've been watching and following each of you, some of your fans, some of your village mates, some of your future constituents are listening. Mr. Ondera, watu wametuma salamu. Thank you so much. And for the team that made this a reality, once again, we cannot thank you enough. This is TV47, the home of untold stories. We take a pause on this conversation. Next time, please join us for an in-depth, vibrant, and insightful conversation on what's happening across our world. My name is Victor Muyakane, and for me, good night and God bless you.